Good morning. My name is Lee Munich. I'm a senior fellow here at the Humphrey School and director of the State and Local Policy Program. We're pleased to have everyone here today for the Minneapolis-St. Paul Regional Cluster Competitiveness Forum. We're going to begin with a welcome from our dean at the Humphrey School, Eric Schwartz.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee, and thank you all for coming. It's a real pleasure to welcome you to today's Regional Competitiveness Forum, in which we'll hear about the findings of a study of 12 competitive industry clusters in the region, a study completed by the Humphrey School's State and Local Policy Program, which was supported by the University of Minnesota's Metro Consortium. The profiles involve the largest industry clusters in the region, in the MSP region, and focus on the potential for knowledge flows across basic or exporting industry sectors in the region. The study's findings, which I welcome the chance to look at yesterday, or the day before yesterday, on the role of corporate headquarters, in fueling the regional economy, on the role of location, on the development of specialized products and advanced manufacturing, on the potential of knowledge sharing through hiring practices between sectors with similar requirements, on the role of entrepreneurship, and in many other areas. The study's findings will be of value to those who are engaged in policy, and I think will make for a very interesting set of conversations today. So I want to thank not only the State and Local Policy Program, but also the University of Minnesota Center for Integrative Leadership, the Metro Consortium, and the ULI Regional Council of Mayors for their co-sponsorship of this event. And this certainly reflects our interests at the Humphrey School and our commitment to making contributions as the MSP region becomes more regionally focused with the formation of greater MSP, the Metro Council's long-term planning, and increased collaboration by the region's mayors on such issues as transportation and economic development. I also want to emphasize that this event is a reflection of the Humphrey School's broader interest and commitment to local and regional issues that impact all of Minnesota. In that respect, I'll take the opportunity to note, because this grew out of a conversation that Lee Munich and I had last week, that the Humphrey School and the State and Local Policy Program are planning to move forward next year with a forum on rural issues in Minnesota, in part, frankly, to showcase work in which we and others are engaged on this issue. So our involvement will certainly continue, and I wish you a very successful meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Schwartz. The Dean mentioned greater MSP and the increased regional focus on economic development in the Minneapolis-St. Paul region. We're pleased to have for our opening remarks today, Michael Langley, who is the president of Greater MSP. Michael? Let me get my...
Come on, applause. Thank you. Wow, what a great celebration we're going to have here today. A celebration of a lot of things. A celebration of the work that went into this study. A lot of work on a lot of people's parts. I know it was a really collaborative process, a lot of folks involved, so we want to celebrate that today. We all want to also, as we do that, celebrate the commitment that we're all making together in this region to work together and to collaborate to make this place we call the Greater Minneapolis-St. Paul region a much stronger economy, a great place to live, work, raise a family, et cetera. And we get to celebrate some other things today also. I don't know if you read the paper this morning, but Dow over 1,600, yay. State's jobless rate now under 5%, about 4.7% in the metro. You know, 2 years ago when Greater MSP started, the Dow was about 8,000 when we were first starting to put it together, 8,000, now it's 16,000. The U.S. unemployment rate at the time was approaching 10%. Now our state's unemployment rate's under 5. Coincidence? I think not. No. So, just in jest, you know, I wish it were the case. I do know that the conversations and the work that's happening now in the region is different than it was a few years ago in terms of how we're working together. Just the fact that this competitiveness study has been completed and is now available for us to use really as, frankly, a trajectory to go forward, I think is exactly why our community came together, public, private, and institutional leaders, to do this work in terms of our regional economic development strategy and our vision. Our namesake of the Humphrey, he would be proud of us today to see that we are collaborating together to create a future, a better future for our region. And I would say that we're creating a better future for our world by the work that we're doing here in this region. I also note, and we should note, that today is the 50th anniversary of the loss of one of our most visionary leaders in our country's history, President Kennedy, in Dallas 50 years ago. And so, you know, we take a moment to pause and remember his legacy. But he was a positive and a forward-looking person, and also kind of a jokester, I guess. So I will paraphrase his immortal remarks. Ask not what Lee Munich can do for you. Ask what you can do for Lee Munich. So he would be happy to be here with us today to see the work that's going on in the region. So Lee asked me to talk a little bit about what is our vision for economic development for the region going forward, and how does all this work fit into that. Well, our vision is that we, as this region, be recognized globally, be recognized as a globally leading region. Now think about what all has to go into being recognized as a globally leading region. I mean, to be authentic, you must be a globally leading region to be recognized as such. So I look at it in two ways. What an opportunity. What an opportunity for us to have that vision, to understand our globally competitive clusters of strength, and to use those strengths to make us a very resilient and strong economy, but also what an opportunity to communicate that, you know, to the world about this region, so that others will be interested, inspired, and will come and join us and add to our investment base, add to our job base, and make this a strong place for us to live, work, invest, raise a family, and play. But also I look at it, this vision is a responsibility as well. We have this responsibility, I think, also to lead the world. If we're going to be recognized as a world leader, we need to have the responsibility and the accountability to lead the world in the industries and technologies that will be most critical to the world's future, because those are our strengths. Food and nutrition, water technology, and health solutions. That's our legacy as a region for the future. That's our opportunity, and that's our responsibility. So it's especially an honor for me to be a part of this today, to help maybe put a point on that for why are we here and what is this cluster work all about. It's about our opportunity and our responsibility. So I have a few slides to run through today briefly, just to kind of set the stage, to show how our strategy is so well aligned with the work that's going on here with the cluster study. If I can make it move. I can't make it move. I just try. Yeah, okay, it's just slow. Okay, this is that region I'm talking about. You know, $220 billion in gross regional product. As a country, if we were a country, we'd be roughly in the top 40 in the world at that level of GDP. We talked about the unemployment rate already. That's just an indicator. But also another indicator is that, you know, if you look at GDP growth this year, you know, through our latest statistics last year, we're growing at about 4% GDP growth, the country at 2.5. You know, this is not anomalous. This is important. You know, those jobs, those 100,000 jobs that we a couple of years ago said we need to add back to the economy to get back up on the step with our peer regions and to lead, we're making great progress toward that as a region. Through August of this year, you know, 2/3 of that 100,000 job goal has already been achieved. You know, having the story to tell is part of this vision and part of our understanding what the strengths are and how to communicate them. So, you know, if each of you hasn't received your elevator speech card yet, we have those for you. We'll make sure you have them. All right, see, Lee's got his. And, you know, this is really important that we communicate, not only that we understand, but that we communicate what this work is that we're doing is telling us. That we really do have these key globally leading strengths and that we're going to pursue them even further in the future. Because the world demands it. You know, it's the urbanization and growing middle class on a global scale is why we have this opportunity. It's the installed base of great companies, technologies, research university, and all of our assets that we possess as a region that will enable us to do this. So we need to make sure that we not only have the data and understand the data, but that we actually can implement that data through a strategy where we're all aligned on what our direction is together. So we've spent a lot of time doing that. We had a steering committee that worked pretty much this whole year, co-chaired by Tim Welsh of McKinsey, who's the incoming chair of Greater MSP, and Doug Baker, who has been the chair of Greater MSP for the past 3 years. And you can see that it was comprised, the leadership group was comprised of both private sector, public sector, and institutional leaders, including Brian Herman of the University of Minnesota Research VP. So that it's important that we that we be very inclusive in our leadership as well as in our execution. Over 1,000 organizations and individuals were a part of this input to our strategy. I think as I look around the room, I think almost everybody in this room participated in some way, and we appreciate that. What came out of that, and kind of as a juxtaposition to this study, was 3 real headlines on where we need to go as a region. The first is we need to tell our story even better. We need to rally ourselves around this common frame. This work that we're discussing today is exactly building competitive intelligence capability. We've got to be better than the rest of the world in understanding our strengths and understanding our challenges and put that to work for us and to create a competitive advantage for ourselves as understanding what the research and the data is telling us. And then use that to align our priorities as a region. And that means that instead of having 14 different visions for our future and 14 different ideas on what we ought to do to enhance our region in terms of public policies and in terms of practices and governance, we need to all align on that. And I think this work will help us. The second headline is this issue of prioritizing talent. You know, it's one thing to go out and communicate our strengths and really create a buzz about our region to business decision makers, to real estate people, to investors. That's needed. We've got to do that. That's a key target audience for all the work that we do together. But we also need to take the same fervor, the same vision to the talent that we're going to need for the future. Because we know that even if every one of us and every one of our kids and everybody here was employed and adding value to companies and organizations and government issues here, if we had a zero unemployment rate, we would still not have enough talent for the future. In the next 10 years, we'll have a projected gap of 120,000 shortfall in workers. In the next 30 years, that shortfall could be as many as 300,000 workers. We can't let that happen. We've got to retain more, and we've got to attract more. We're in a globally competitive race for talent with the rest of the world. And so this work that we're doing here today is important along those lines. We need to then, again, recruit and retain it. And we need to align it, not only our existing talent, but make sure that the talent that we're retaining and recruiting is aligned with the needs of our future. And again, that's why this work is so important, to understand where we're going to need to compete, how we can compete, and what the technologies and cluster areas are. And then finally, most directly aligned with this work is taking our sectors of strength, our clusters of strength, from great to greater. Claiming global leadership in those areas that I talked about, and then seeing where the interconnections are between these clusters, and then focusing on some very high opportunity subsectors, and I know that's going to be part of our discussion today. We've taken that view, working not only with the Humphrey School and the university and many other researchers and organizations in the region, but also with McKinsey and the McKinsey Global Institute and our own professional team to understand, starting with 300 industry sectors and then crunching it down to about 90 initially in our region that were of interest, and then even compressing that further to 27 subsectors that we believe are really an opportunity for our future. And guess what? They directly align with the same results that the cluster competitiveness study is indicating. So we've got good validation from all points on our strategy, and we're very excited about that. Business prospers here and people prosper here. That's our future. Thank you for the work you're doing here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. It's very exciting to have the Greater MSP organization. Our show today isn't quite as exciting as the one that they did at the Guthrie a couple of weeks ago, where they brought in actors, but we'll do our best. So thanks for all the work that you're doing.